Hope you're all having a great weekend. Get this started in just a little bit. Just going live on Facebook. Perfect. It's still not quite to the top of the hour. All right. Hey, Rachel, Ian, Carmel, welcome to the webinar. Amy, welcome to the webinar. We'll get started here in just a couple seconds. I think I've got everything ready for tonight. We're going to share a video that we did when the webinar or when the age bill first came out, and Tom was with us, and so it's a great informational video that Katie found and sent me, one that I'd done a couple of years ago. So hang on, Katie, there you go. All right, well, welcome to the webinar, everyone. We'll get this thing started. It's the top of the hour. My name is Dr. Kurt Fisnick, for those of you who don't know me, and thanks for being here with us today. I know you have a busy weekend, and just like everybody, and thanks for taking a time out of your Friday night here in North America, or getting up early on Saturday morning and jumping on the webinar. We've been sharing a lot of information lately on the age bill, and there's a lot of great info out there, and just some fantastic testimonials that we've had. And tonight I thought we'd share this video. So hang on one second.
Well, welcome to the call, everyone. My name is Dr. Kurt Fisnick, and I'm hosting the call tonight. We have a special guest, Tom Mower Sr. From out in Springville, Utah, the chief biochemist out at Sizzle and Supernaturals, and we have a couple of guests on the call as well. One of the things that keeps popping up is some people, they just don't understand that, you know, the dosage that's written on a bottle, not just necessarily the age pill, but on other products as well. That's a dosage for primarily, I mean, in my thoughts, that's a dosage for somebody who's otherwise pretty healthy, fairly healthy. And so sometimes we'll notice that they have to take an increased dosage over and above what's listed on the product label to get results. And they sometimes feel like, oh, it's not working for me. And so I thought it'd be nice to have a call with Tom, with the formulator of our product, really explain why this phenomenon takes place and why somebody might need that. Before we bring Tom on, I'm going to bring Katie Larking from Australia on. Katie actually is one of them that she bumped her dosage up and she had some improved results. So Katie, I'm going to hand it over to you, and then I'll mute myself out. And Katie, when you get done, if you want to hand the microphone over to Marsha, okay?
Okay, great. Thanks, Kurt. Thank you, Tom, for being on the call. We're super excited to have you on, as always. Yeah, so I just thought I'd share a little bit about my experience. So I started on the H pill back in 2017. I think it was August 2017. And I used the double dose initially, as suggested by Tom, which was 12 capsules a day. And I was taking 3, 3, and 3, and 3, because for me, taking 4, I flush quite easily. I get a nice flush quite easily. Anyway, after taking it for about 15 days, I started noticing new hair growth coming around the hairline. And of course, skin had improved considerably. The complexion was better, and skin appeared to me firmer. And of course, energy levels had increased, better sleep, etc. So fantastic results, and quite noticeable in before and after photos after 30 days, actually. And I continued doing that for 3 months, which was great. And then I went back down to the normal dose, and I still felt really good. But then after probably another few months, I noticed that the sprouting of the hair and the quite dramatic skin changes. My skin still looked awesome, but it wasn't at the same level, I guess I'd say. Anyway, so I've still been extremely happy with the age pill. I think it's just an unreal product. But then recently, you know, Dr. Kurt's been doing some testimonial calls, and I've been listening to them, and people were talking and sharing how they've, you know, been taking 12, and the difference they noticed from 6 to 12 was quite significant. So I thought I'd do a little test this month, and I decided to go from 6 back up to 12 a day. And so I started taking 12, and after about 10 days, probably 10, 12 days, I noticed again with my hairline, new hair kind of sprouting, because I've actually kind of got quite thin hair genetically. I guess it's not, I don't have thick hair, but new hair coming along the hairline. And I certainly noticed my energy levels were really excellent, but it went up even a whole nother notch as well. And probably sleep, again, I noticed as well, probably because more energy running around during the day. But so I have seen the physical difference, and also feeling the difference from 6 to 12. For me, that was quite noticeable. So, I mean, I guess the reason also I'm sharing that is because, you know, I like to be able to share that with others. But, you know, given that the recommendation on the bottle is 6, you know, how do you recommend to someone too that, you know, go ahead and take 12? So anyway, I'll save all my questions for the end. But that's my testimonial. From going from 6 to 12. So I just thought it was really interesting experiment to try, and yeah, just quite thrilled with it, really. Well, I'm thrilled with the age pill anyway. So I'll hand over to, is it Andrea that's going to talk now? Oh, Marsha. Marsha, you're on?
Yeah.
Hi.
Marsha, please.
Hi, Marsha.
Hello. Good morning. Good morning, everyone, including Tom. It's lovely to have you on the call. I feel very blessed. So I'll go straight into my testimonial. So last year, I kind of was at the end of a really severe battle with autoimmune. So initially I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia about 4 or 5 years ago. That was after 4 years of being sick and seeing my GP, who really didn't know what to do with me. And then about this time last year, I was very, very, very unwell. I had really severe autoimmune symptoms, including systemic pain. I had to give up my job, which was really sad. I loved my job as a sign language interpreter, but I couldn't remember anything. I wasn't functioning at all. I was sleeping a lot. And I had really bad brain fog and memory loss, and just that cognitive function, inability to really communicate. It really got that bad. So at that point, I met Rosalind, and she recommended the age pill to me, so I ordered it straight away. I had tried many, many things before this, though. Besides, you know, a myriad of supplements from naturopaths, I tried things like EFT tapping. I saw an osteopath, a kinesiologist, a chiropractor, a musculoskeletal therapist, massage therapists, physiotherapists, homeopath, acupuncturists, and obviously all this cost me a bomb. I even had psychotherapy. I was just so desperate to feel well. I even started doing some coffee enemas at home. I mostly ate organic food, and I also tried many diets, including paleo, vegetarian, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, anti-inflammatory, sugar-free, all of those sort of diets. So by the time I started taking the age pill, I almost gave up. I almost was ready to become a statistic of autoimmune. At that point, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, because I really got to the point where I couldn't walk properly. I was very, very shaky. And if I did try to go to the shopping centre for anything like essentials, I would only leave the house for essentials or groceries. My daughter would have to help, and I would be in bed for the rest of the day. I didn't realise how much support that I had set up around me. I had people helping me with, you know, clipping my doggies and mowing the lawn, and helping with, my daughter was helping a lot around the house. And when she couldn't, because she was at university herself, the house just became a mess. Excuse me just a moment. Yeah, you can do that now, darling. Yep, you can just take them and put them in the tub. Sorry guys, I'm actually at work, but I promised Katie that I'd do my best to come and on this call to share my story, because I've actually healed from the age pill. So going back to last year when I met Roz and she suggested the age pill, I was a little bit skeptical, but I trust Roz, and she really, both her and I have been in pursuit of happiness and health and wellness and supplementation for 16 years. So we both are very passionate about optimal health. And me being who I am, I love helping people, and I knew that my purpose in life would eventually end up being one where I would help people. So I tried quite a few different type of businesses, and nothing really sort of gelled and felt right. And so I got rid of those opportunities. So it just didn't feel like it was part of my alignment. But when I started the age pill, now remember, I was hardly able to walk and not really able to function properly. Within 8 weeks of taking 6 in the morning and 6 at night of the age pill, within 8 weeks, I was back at full-time work. So that was a job that I started in August last year. And it's actually as a vocational trainer. So I help people with intellectual disability to gain employment through a work experience program. So I'm the transitions officer. So that's my little client that I was just talking to. And look, with a job like this, you really need to be on the ball. You're on your feet all day. You've got to be thinking and, obviously communicate with the parents and the employers. And there's just absolutely no way that without the age pill, I would have been able to do that. Now, about 6 months later, I thought, I've been on the age pill 6 and 6 for about 6 months. And I thought, I think I'm right to go down to 3 and 3. And I tried it, and within 2 or 3 weeks, I really felt most of my symptoms come back. So obviously with taking it, the systemic pain, it immediately went away. The cognitive function went away, dysfunction, when I first started taking the age pill. And the food allergies were really just ripe. They were very, very, very severe. And some of you have seen my photos on Tom Mower's Facebook page. And so I went down to 3 and 3, and within 2 or 3 weeks, most of those symptoms came back. Nowhere near as severe as I first had them, but I realised then that I'm not ready yet. I need to go back onto 6 and 6 because my energy really started to fade. The other, I think probably the most significant testimonial that I would have about the age pill is that I'm off my antidepressants, which makes me so incredibly happy. And not just that just being on the age pill, I feel like it's changed my brain. And I can't explain that. Tom, you'd be better to do that later when you start talking about the age pill. But I didn't realise just how unwell I was until I became better. And I am so extremely happy. I feel so happy. Every day is beautiful and great, and I'm so happy to be alive. So I think for now, I'm going to stay on the 6 and 6 until, I don't know, maybe another 12 months or so, and see how I go. I know I've got a lot of cleaning out to do in my body still because I was very, very unwell, and I'm also doing a lot of gut healing, taking a lot of supplements for gut healing. So that's my testimonial for taking 6 and 6. I highly recommend it, and you'll notice a massive big difference, especially if you've got depression, anxiety, or panic attacks, which is something I actually also had at the start of, when I started taking it. So that's me for now, guys.
All right. Well, thanks, Marcia, and thanks, Katie, for sharing your stories. Tom, I'm going to hand the microphone over to you, and I know you know some incredible science behind this, and why it's working, and why people sometimes have to take more, and why it really doesn't work if you're only taking one a day. So I'm gonna hand it over to you, Tom.
Okay, well, thanks, Doc, and thanks for those testimonies. They were enlightening in some ways because we've seen the same thing happening in the field. Myself, when I started on it, if I give my sort of personal testimony, I was on 6 and 6. I just did it twice a day. I think you'd be better off if you did it 3 times a day, but it's hard sometimes with my lifestyle and job. I don't think about it in mid part of the day, but I've got it home in my bathroom. It's first thing I take in the morning, last thing I take at night. And so at that, it surprised me because I wanted to accelerate it, because I know with many medications, if you call this a medication, is a natural medicine, of course, but it's dose dependent. So I also knew there were quite a number of other things with it that science was talking about and trying to address, and they weren't incorporated into other formulations that I saw that were being experimented with or testing. And then along came, well, the biggest research was done in Harvard Medical School. We can't use that because Harvard Medical School, we can't use their reference. We've taken off our literature, and Dr. David Sinclair, who did all that, because they are spending huge amounts of money. They're going to go into billions of dollars to try and convert this technology into a technology that is patentable. That means they have to make a synthetic molecule with it. Right now, they're doing all of their testing on a compound called NMN. Now, NMN is one of the things that the formulation with that we have, or like some of the competitors have there's a little bit being sold, not much, but they use what they call NR, which is niacinamide riboside, and we're using niacinamide ribose, and so it's very similar to it, but the differences is they both get converted into NMN. And so if you can follow my pathway, I don't want to get you too far off and too technical, but if you, these products are precursors, including NMN, into making NAD+. So when that happens, you've got an equation going on. Can you hold, excuse me a second, do you need anything, Tom? Kinds of things. And just like one of you said early on the testimony, your mission is to help people to make their lives better. That is my mission in life. It's not money. It's not egotistical. I get really a lot of happiness in making people's lives become much better, healthier, happier, and wealthier with all of that. And that's what I'm dedicated to doing. So I'm sitting here without a note, and you can see I'm just extemporaneously talking. I know so much about this. I have a really a God-given ability in mind to be able to understand this, to comprehend it, put it together in a sequential thing where the total is greater than the sum of the parts. And that's a lot of what I've explained to you today. So my advice to you, yeah, double up with it. And if you're not on TSX or Brain Vitality, you darn well ought to be. You ought to be taking the Eternity. You ought to be taking the hydrogen H2 stick with it. All those things, will, you need to get methyl. So start eating dark green leafy vegetables every meal, or get a methyl supplement. And if you put all that together, if you can take all of this malarkey that I've been throwing your way and just pick out the bits and pieces that are singular apropos to what you want to do, you've got the answer right there in front of you. Now, the one thing I'm saying, I explained a lot of it to you because I know you're not naive. You may not know, but you have the desire to know. And if I don't want to sell products based on hype and hope. I want to be based on facts and reality. And so that's why I've gone I hope I haven't gone too far afield into it, like I have, but I wanted to give you all of these different facets and nuances of what the science is, what it can really do, so that within yourself, within your heart of hearts, you will realize that this is true and this is possible, and no other company on planet Earth is approaching this at all the way that we are. There's bits and pieces here and there. We've got the whole enchilada for you, and we're going to put more and more on top of it as we progress, as it's found, as we can do it. So anyway, that's my long message that I gave you today. Sorry I went so long. I apologize to you again, but I'll turn it back to you, Don.
No problem, Tom. I mean, I'm sitting there listening to, and I'm thinking about all these seminars that I've gone to over the last 33 years that I've been a chiropractor, and I paid hundreds of dollars, sometimes close to $1,000 just to get information like what you shared with us. So thank you. I mean, it's everybody here. We should all be thinking, man, we just saved hundreds of dollars by not having to go to pay for a seminar. So I appreciate that. I know we have a couple questions out there. People had questions regarding this, regarding the science. So I'm going to first open it up over to Katie. I know Katie had wrote me 3 or 4 different questions. So I'm going to throw it over to you, Katie, and if you want to ask your questions of Tom here.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was just fabulous, Tom. Absolutely love listening to you talk about all great science. So the question I had was, can we actually suggest to people to take a double dose, even though the bottle says, take 3 and 3? How do we word that? What do we say so we're doing the right thing?
Here's what I said it a little earlier on. It's dose dependent. Now, our recommendation for a person is 3 and 3. But because of a person's biological, their genetic makeup, their environmental issues, their age, how far they've degenerated, and those types of things, that's only a suggested number. To go down doesn't make much sense because these are synergistic at that level to remove glycation, lipofuscin, and increase NAD. But if your biology is more adverse, then you need to take more products because it's dose dependent. If that answers it for you.
Yeah, great. Thank you. The other question I had is, you can read on the internet, there's a lot about niacin, and it says that in high doses, I guess the question is it safe? And I did read that McCullough said that niacin that they're talking about in high doses was more, the studies that was done was more in relation to this slow release niacin, but my understanding is ours is, sort of fast release. Is there any concern with safety there? What would you say to people about that?
Well, absolutely. If you take a high dose of niacin, it's detrimental to you. We don't give you a high dose. Here's the thing to remember. Niacin is nicotinic acid. That's what niacin is, okay? And so we use some. If you go above 30 milligrams, then you cross over. At 30 milligrams, it's very helpful in producing NAD plus, but it's not the main driver, but it is an important factor. But vitamin B3 has a number of different types of varieties in it. And with that, we use niacinamide. And what that is that's nicotinic acid with an amide, an amino acid, an amide on it. So what this does, if you want to think of it in this kind of terms, if you have niacin, it's nicotinic acid, it's an organic acid. And on the pH scale, you hit 7 is neutral, below 7 is acid, above 7 is base. It goes from 1 to 14 on the scale. So you get nicotinic acid, and you're getting down about 3.5 on the pH scale. So it's fairly acid. Your stomach is 1 to 2 as a comparison. And every time you change from one level, the power of it, pH means power, hydrogen atom, whether it's hydrogen is, if it's H plus, it's acid. If it's OH, it's base. But anyway, I won't explain all that to you. But as you go down, if you go from 7 to 6, it's 10 times greater. Then go to 5, it's 10 times 10 or 100. Then 1,000, then 10,000, then 100,000, then 1,000,000, then 10 million, and you're getting down in there. So you have, as you get more acidic, you have, and of course, same thing happens on base when you go the other way. But acidic is very reactionary, and base is too if you really get up in the higher levels. But our body is essentially base. Now we have an acid mantle on our skin, but that's only from the sebum that's secreted from the skin. The actual skin cells and all of the tissues in between to the rest of our body has a pH of average about 7.38. So it's just slightly base. Okay, well, if you take nicotinic acid, there's quite a reaction with the base, which is on the other side of the pH scale. So if you get a large amount of it, you get a large reaction. And the bad thing about it is it causes a lot of vasodilation if you get real high like that, which can do damage. But at 30, you want that vasodilation to make the blood vessels more reactive and flexible, so it can carry more blood and opens up the tissues to receiving more nutrients. Plus, then it goes in as part of the process with tryptophan to create NAD with it. And you'll notice we have tryptophan in our products. You won't see that in anyone else's, which is there. So then you turn around and you go to niacinamide. There is no upper limit on niacinamide. It has a pH of 7.5. So now you're on the other end of the scale. And because of that, you don't have that, you have no vasodilation at all with niacinamide because it's based on acid. It's nicotinic acid with an amino acid complex, an amide on it. So it's niacinamide, and that's where it is. So we use large amounts of that. Now that is readily converted into NR or NMN if you can have ribose with it. There's a company that's tried to tie up the market through Procter & Gamble, and they've developed NR, which you can easily produce, but they developed NR and they use the blueberry extract with it. So with that, just so it's patentable, it's a different molecule. Now it's patentable, even though it's got niacin, ribose, and the blueberry to bond with the colchicillin. But with that, it's very subject to deterioration and breakdown. And if you take niacinamide, which has almost no breakdown through the digestive system, and if you take ribose, which has virtually no, and ribose is the energy molecule too. If you take that, and there's almost no breakdown in the system, what happens is for the quantity you take, you'll produce a lot more NMN, which is what NR is producing also. And with more NMN, you produce more NAD plus. So that's, I hope you followed me on
Yes,
that.
yeah, I am. That's great. Thank you very much. And I guess the last question I had, so can if people are asking how long can they keep taking 12 if they feel they get a better result or they need it, is that okay to keep taking the 12?
It's okay forever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you know, some things, if you took too much calcium, you'd have a problem. But really what you're doing with this is how clean can a cell be? Okay, it gets clean, it stays clean. If you have more power, how much energy can a cell produce? Well, there's a thing called homeostasis. And when homeostasis means the maximum operational potential of a cell. And so the closer you get to homeostasis, the better that you are for energy and repair and regeneration and health and everything. So, but once you hit an ultimate level, it doesn't go beyond that because the cell is self-regulating. So with this, you take a lot of it, well, you'll hit it back. So you'll hit homeostasis and that's it, you're there. So if you're taking more, okay, more is better up to a point where you reach homeostasis. Then after that point, then you want to find a balance because it's just a matter now, not of biological damage, but of economy of use with what you're doing.
Yeah.
So.
Fantastic. That's it. That's the 3 main questions I had. I really appreciate you taking the time to answer them. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thanks, Tom. Let's run over to Andrea up in Michigan. Andrea, I know you had some questions for me as well, and for Tom. If you want to unmute yourself and throw some questions over there to Tom as well.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I think you kind of answered it, Tom, but Doc was explaining to someone that we did a 3-way with yesterday that your 5th edition of the H pill, you actually took those 2 substances and developed it so that we were developing more inside the body so that we're not losing effectiveness of the product.
Yeah, you're spot on there. There's 2 things we do, Andrea, with it. It's not what you ingest, it's what you absorb. And so the stomach acids are so severe that if you take a compound like NR, it decomposes it badly within the stomach acids. And so you lose a lot by the time it gets into the small intestine. If you take niacinamide, it's very resistant to it. with it, and same with ribose. And so the molecular structure of it does not get deteriorated. But nicotinic acid will get through with it. But when you build a compound like NR, it's too unstable. And so it gets broken down and complex into other things. So what we do is we use those compounds because that's the way sales make NAD is with that. There's a number of factors that are involved in it, but not that many. With your, well, of course, we have the glycation, the lipofuscin, those are different things. But as you're trying to make NAD, which is the primary goal of what we're doing, and then we're saying, well, why run a car engine with fresh gas if you got a worn out engine and you haven't changed the oil? It's nothing but sludge. So that kind of makes sense that way if you look at it practically. But since stomach acids are harsh, in fact, is of all the stem cells activity you have in the body, they replace the cells that are wearing out. Skin normally replaced in about 120 days or so. If you're younger, it's less than that. But nonetheless, the heart go 3 to 5 years and with that kind of thing. But stomach cells are replaced every 6 or 8 days because the attack is so intense with that. And as a consequence, when you put these volatile compounds in it that will react to such severe, that's why I gave you the equation of the factor of 10 on the pH scale. You get down to the acidic side from neutral of what the stomach is, you're talking about 10 million times greater in power. So you have to have something that's very stabilized to do it. But I don't like losing any of it. If it's theoretically, it's what I try to do. So I use those compounds and the ribose and tryptophan and nicotinic acid, niacin, and of course the niacinamide all go together, and we work with another compound in this, which is rosmarinic acid, that helps to increase the effectiveness of it coming together and metabolizing. And those are things that people don't even think about it with. Well, some scientists have found it because I found the science, and I'm putting it all together. And so as a consequence, when you take that into the cell will produce NAD. It's doing it anyway. Whether you take a supplement or not, you're producing it. It's just that it goes down a lot. So now if you have a lot of these compounds, you can make a lot more NAD and everything goes up, regeneration, energy, all those things with it. So we do a lot. But the other thing, what I do is, since the stomach is so harsh and it destroys so much of something that you take, like if you took NAD and you put it in your stomach, it's gone. It'll never much, you might get a little of it get through, but most of it just be destroyed on NAD. But so anyway, what we're doing, and of course it's terribly expensive too, but so what we're doing is we take this formulation and then we put it into an enterically coated capsule. In other words, acid, this bulletproofs it against acidic breakdown. So these enteric capsules that we have will carry it through the stomach into the small intestine. Once it's in the small intestine, there are enzymes rather than acids that will break down the components of the enteric coating, and it will allow the contents to come out into the lower intestine where they are absorbed by the villi that are there, and they will come out intact. So we go a long ways to make sure we get everything we can into the small intestine to improve the absorption.
That's fabulous. As you were talking tonight, I had one more question come up in my mind. You were talking about the importance of the methylfolate, and that we could get that as an additional supplement somewhere.
Yeah, any methyl supplement, if it's methyl based, but methylfolate is an inexpensive one, and it has a particularly good effect, especially with the pregnant mothers and things like that, because a lack of folic acid, you can get along okay if you're an adult woman, but in forming the baby, you get spinal bifida if you don't have enough folic acid. But folic acid can also cause some real serious injuries where folate does not. So if you have a methylfolate, it works tremendously well for spinal bifida, but it has other energetic and other properties too that folic acid damages, and this actually is restorative.
Okay, so the question that came to my mind was, and maybe it wouldn't mix with the other substances, but I just wondered, you know, if it could be added into the age pills so that we are automatically getting it.
Yeah, I've thought about that, but that's a whopping pill, and we're right at capacity. And so sometimes it's like I'd like to add the telomere in it, or like TSX into it.
We'd have to take
Couldn't
a
do
lot
it.
of pills.
Pretty soon you'd have so many pills in your mouth that your cheeks would be so bulgy you'd look like Doc Fizz.
Oh, he's looking pretty good nowadays, don't you think?
Yeah, he's improved quite a bit. Of course, he was in bad shape when I first met him, but he has improved quite a bit.
Be nice, Tom.
You're always picking on me.
Oh,
Well, thank you. We appreciate the information.
Okay, you're certainly welcome. And the other thing, you know, just treat, if you can do it, put it in your lifestyle. Make dark green leafy vegetables, especially broccoli is the best one. If you like that into your diet and eat it every day, and you don't even have to worry about a supplement.
Awesome. Great idea.
Or methyl. Okay.
Yeah, isn't that the important thing, that if you know what foods you can eat, you can actually get extra nutrition from that. And if you're somebody that's a poor methylator, then you really want to pay attention to it.
Yeah, and you never know whether you are or not. And you got to remember one thing: when you increase NAD levels as great as we do, you have methyl reserves that are within your body, and they're there for when you need. If you're spurring into running or action or aggressive things you have to do physically one way or another, that's there. So the methyl can create a lot of energy through the methylization with the NAD. But if you're producing a lot of NAD, it takes a lot of methyl to do it, and you drain your reserves and your energy goes down.
Yeah, and I made a note that you previously mentioned broccoli, Brussels sprouts, spinach, asparagus, and avocados.
That's it. I mean, there's more, but the darker the green, the more methyl.
Awesome. Thank you.
Excellent.
Okay.
Katie, did you have any other questions?
No, that's I'm all good. That's fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. You know, Tom, thanks for spending some time with us tonight. I really appreciate that. You know, as we go and share this information with people, we always come across those questions, and we want to have the right answers. And I think sometimes, you know, we might explain it because we've heard it from you, and then people come back and they say, well, we want to hear it from, you know, from the superhero. And so that's why we have to get you on calls like this, and I appreciate you being able to take the time to share this information.
Yeah, I'm glad to do it, because sometimes you need third-party validation. You may know what you're talking about, but people always question it. And if you go for an outside authority, then it has a lot of impact. So I understand that, and I'm happy I can do it.
All right. Well, thank you. And Andrea and Marcia and Katie, Trevor, thanks for joining us tonight. And we'll get this call out to everybody so that it's shared with everybody in the entire world if they want to listen. Thanks for being with us tonight. I hope that answered some questions. You know, it's always nice to go back and listen to some of these old videos that Tom did with us. He was such just a mound of knowledge for us, and the way that he shared everything, it made sense. And if you listen to that, doesn't it make sense to take the age pill, and doesn't it make sense to maybe go back and do that double dose? Take the 2-week challenge, and if you feel a difference, make it a lifetime change, you know, and you can really do some things and help a lot of people. So thanks for being with us. Have a great night. And if you listen to the recording, get back to the person that shared it with you and let them know that you'd like to give it a try. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye-bye.